Welcome back to Callie's Corner. March is still well underway, and I want to celebrate a group of unsung heroes that I think they bring a pop of color to our lives, but they don't get enough of the attention and credit they deserve. So this top 5 list is going to be for all you gingers out there. If you are a ginger, you know a ginger, you love gingers, this top 5 list is for you. My number 5 pick, someone actually named Ginger. It followed Ginger, her 2 best friends. Ginger as a character, she wasn't the most interesting, but I mean, how can you leave off a ginger named Ginger on a list about people with red hair? She's gonna get a spot. It had that great theme song by Macy Gray, that Grass is Greener theme song. It's in my head right now as I'm talking about it. But you can still catch episodes of that on, I think they have some full episodes on YouTube, things like that, but it was a good show. It was very down to earth for a show of that nature. One of my favorite episodes was the Little Seal Girl episode.
Living in the real world, and it's so hard to get by.
And no one supported her, and no one was standing with her. But Ginger went on later to date her friend Darren on the show, who was her black best friend. So I thought that was pretty cool, an interracial relationship like that being shown on Nick at the time. So as told by Ginger, great theme song, well-developed characters, and stars of Ginger. What else do you need? Watch it. 2 Petes for the price of 1. Pete and Pete on the Adventures of Pete and Pete. This is another Nickelodeon show. It came out years before, as told by Ginger. In this show, it follows the adventures of 2 brothers, Little Pete and Big Pete. Yes, they are 2 brothers, both named Pete. Pete and Pete go on various adventures, and this show, you know, I always tell you this is so 90s or this is so 2000s. This show is the most 90s show I've put on the list. It really, really encapsulates the early 90s. You know, there's a lot of flannel, there's like cool alternative rock. This show will definitely get you in the vibe of that time if that's what you're looking for. It's a quirky show. It's not as well remembered as something like As Told by Ginger or other shows that came on Nickelodeon, you know, around the same time. The Adventures of Pete and Pete is more kind of like Salute Your Shorts and other shows like that that came on earlier in Nickelodeon's history. But the 2 brothers on here, especially Little Pete, he's getting the main shout out here because Little Pete was played by this guy named Danny Tamborelli. Danny Tamborelli went on to be on All That and Figure It Out. So he was a main staple on Nickelodeon in the 90s and 2000s. So he played Little Pete on the show. His older brother, Big Pete, he didn't go on to do as many acting roles, but I will say this, the 2 of them are actually still in communication today, and they actually have a podcast, so you should check that out as well if you enjoyed the show. And even if you've never seen the show before, a lot of the episodes are right here on YouTube, so you should definitely check those out as well. And each one is good. It's just they're strange, kind of off-the-wall episodes and concepts, but no one else is quite like them. Pete and Pete are our number 4 pick. Number 3, we've got 2 more gingers, but this time they have no relation. We've got Miss Frizzle and Arnold from Magic School Bus. I'm not talking about this revamped version of the Magic School Bus. I got no beef with this revamped version of Magic School Bus, but I'm talking about the one I know that ran in the 90s. Miss Frizzle was the coolest teacher you could ever have. Who needs books? Who needs studying? Every day is a field trip. Let's get on this bus. Let's get out here. Learning what happens in the world. So she is the coolest teacher ever. Arnold is the antithesis of everything Miss Frizzle is. Every time everyone's like, yeah, this is so fun, let's do it. Arnold's like, no, I don't think we should do that. So they're giving you 2 completely different ends of the spectrum as far as people with red hair go. I would put Arnold in the same category as a Chucky Finster. They're pretty much a very similar character. I'm not putting Chucky Finster on this list because he was kind of more of an ensemble cast member on Rugrats, even though we got a lot more background story on him than, say, Arnold. Miss Frizzle is the one that secures their spot on this list. She was just a fiery redheaded lady. You know, I think she rubbed off on Arnold in the end though. So I'm definitely always gonna go for a show where I get 2 gingers for the price of 1. So definitely check out Magic School Bus, the old one. Maybe the new one's good too, I don't know. But if you're gonna check it out, those 2 characters are enough of a reason to watch. Number 2, Caitlin's Way. Caitlin's Way falls into that same category of the Pete and Pete, where I don't think as many people remember this show, but if you were watching Nickelodeon at the time, you probably saw this show. It followed the adventures of a girl named Caitlin, who, I guess she lost her way. She got into a little spat of trouble. I went back and rewatched the first episode because I was like, I remember this girl with dyed red hair, but I couldn't really remember what happened on her show. So here's what happened. She gets caught up with the wrong crowd, so her family sends her away. They send her away to a horse farm in Montana, I believe. So on this farm, she begins an intense relationship with this horse. She's like a kid from the streets, but she has this bond with this horse, and then the next 3 seasons are like her hanging out with this horse or whatever. It's very much of its time, not always in the best way. But I did definitely want to include someone who I'm pretty sure was not a real ginger. She was not a real redhead. But, you know, she encapsulated that fiery spirit that I think people expect from redheaded people. Overall, the show had some good outdoor shots of her riding the horses and things like that. The family on there, they were all right. But anytime someone with red hair is cool enough to get the whole show named after them, it's good enough for my list, and it belongs on my list. Number 2, Caitlin's Way. Before we get to number 1, we've got a couple honorable mentions. Dexter's Lab follows the redheaded main character, Dexter, as he invents things in his laboratory. He has an annoying sister named Dee Dee. He's got his mom and dad. He's got his enemy Mandark. Dexter was cool, and he definitely deserves a spot on my honorable mentions. I didn't go with him because that's such a character trait for so many redheaded characters, is the, you know, spiciness. But Dexter's on here because he was legitimately a genius. He came up with some crazy adventures. But that was a good show off Cartoon Network. You know, the episodes would be short little tiny snippets. And I think that's a good show to check out as well, Dexter's Lab. My second honorable mention is Wheeler from Captain Planet. He's from New York. He's got red hair. His power was the fire ring. I feel like that's enough right there. A redhead with the power to control fire. I think that's as literal as you can go. Captain Planet, he's the main guy, but Wheeler is definitely the character to look out for if you're going to check out Captain Planet. And my number 1 pick is Who's That Girl? What's Her Name? Is she cool? Is she lame? Pepperon. My number 1 pick, Pepperon, is a TV show that was animated. It aired on, I believe, ABC, but it aired on like ABC in the afternoon. And in this show, Pepperon, the fiery, redheaded protagonist of this show, she would have these elaborate dream sequences, and her imagination was so crazy. And she was my favorite show. I would run home from school in the afternoon. 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, let me tell you. I would put my Lunchable in the microwave. Yes, I microwave my Lunchable with the pepperonis and everything, those little pizzas. And I would get my snack ready, sit down, run back in the living room because I had to get in there before the second part of Pepperon started. You know, the bus dropped me off too late. I couldn't catch that first part of Pepperon, but you better believe I was there for that second part of Pepperon. A typical episode of Pepperon was like 2 little segments. So, you know, you had your first maybe like 10-minute segment, then you had another 10-minute segment. And it followed Pepperon, her mom, her sibling Moose. She had a little sister named Moose. And it also followed her friends Nikki and Milo. And it just had the best 90s, 2000 vibes. Pepperon, she actually had like rollerblades on the show. That's how she got to school. She was always late because she was rollerblading to school and stuff. And I loved the opening theme song. It was awesome. And then I loved the way every time at the end of the theme song, Pepperon would find something different under the desk. Like it'd be like, cool, a mood ring. So it was just one of those shows. I think they paid a lot of attention to detail. It definitely deserved more seasons than it got. And Pepperon is probably the coolest redhead I've ever seen. So if you've never seen an episode of Pepperon, check it out. It's on YouTube. I just scratched the surface on how many gingers there are and how many redheads are represented in the media. What I need you to do is comment below. Who did I miss? Who did I leave off my list? And I also need you to drop a like on this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. And we will see you next time on Callie's Corner.
Don't do it.
I'm a little seal girl living in the real world. 'Cause seals can't even cry. I was like, yes! Little seal girl. Tell her.